I feel like there's been no other time at the San Diego Museum of Art when Asian art has been so celebrated and that people have been more excited about it. Across all of the traditions of Asia, various religious traditions, we've just had Persian and Islamic festivals, and then also Buddhist and Hindu material that we'll be engaging today across all of Asia. When Roxana Velasquez, our dynamic new, I can still call her new, definitely still fresh director, who is now bringing a trip or a group of our trustees across Spain to visit part of one of many things, the Binney collection as it is on view at the Museo Thyssen-Bornemisza. She insists, well, she's devastated she can't be here today. We tried everything to schedule this symposium on a weekend when she could be here, but she insisted we absolutely cannot cancel the symposium because I'm going to be in Spain. We have to have this because it is such an important way to celebrate the kind of work that we're doing, the new kind of work, and the high quality of work that we're doing here at the San Diego Museum of Art. Not only with special exhibitions that are on view, taking over the entire west wing of the museum, but also to support the, and bring attention to the extraordinary quality and size of the collections and scope of the collections that we have permanently in the holdings here at the San Diego Museum of Art. And so I asked her, I said, Roxana, how on earth, I come from an academic background where symposia are very pointed with very specific topics. And I said, how on earth are we going to have a symposium that's going to tie together an exhibition of modern Japanese textiles from the mid to late 20th and early 21st centuries, and then, cave temple sculptures from 6th century China, and then the Binney collection, which has everything on view from 11th century manuscripts from Nepal and northeastern India, across up through the 19th century in India and Southeast Asia. So what exactly in one morning are we going to do that can possibly tie all of these traditions together? And she said, well, you'll figure it out. And just make it happen. And that is exactly what we've been charged with doing here, and so delighted to follow through and bring her vision to fruition. And so today we have three extraordinary speakers. We honestly, here in San Diego, couldn't be more lucky. You'll never have another kind of symposium at another museum that will match the combination of the three extraordinary people we have coming to bring a whole new perspective on our exhibitions and collections than the three speakers we have coming to us today. Our first speaker is Naval Krishna. Now, Naval Krishna I have been hearing about for probably 35 years. And I'm not even that old. And this is because, very traditionally you'll see, if you, pay some close attention to the installations of the Binney collection that are always on view, that very often artists in India follow families and lineages, that often one is born into one's profession and begins apprenticing at a very early age. And sometimes you have families of artists that cluster together and bring about a very special kind of talent and vision for art and production of art, or even histories and calligraphies in India. And Naval Krishna belongs to such a family, but with the new, relatively for India, tradition of art history. His grandfather received the highest possible honor that one can receive from the government of India, the Padma Vibhushan. And he did so because he was one of the first founding great art historians and collectors and museologists that India has ever seen. His name was Rai Krishna Das, and he founded the Banaras Hindu University and its attendant university museum, which sits in India as probably the most serious, important, and extraordinarily beautiful collection of objects in any museum in India or probably abroad for Indian art. The scope of the collection there at the Bharat Kala Bhavan, it's called, which is the University Museum of the Banaras Hindu University, has everything from the most ancient sculpted works up through some of the most important textile and painting collections, many of which we're still unfamiliar with here in the West. But it's one of the great universities located on the banks of the Ganges River in Varanasi, India, and this is the place from which Naval Krishna has come to speak to us today. He grew up in this family of art historians. Rai Krishna Das, who is still celebrated in the field today as probably having the most singularly best eye for quality with works of art in the Indian tradition. His father, Ananda Krishna, is one of the most important and prolifically published scholars of Indian art through the 20th century, still active, still living there in Benares. And Naville and his brother, also Kalyan, have been very active in the field as well their entire lives. Naval Krishna has been able to access some of the most extraordinary holdings of Indian manuscript painting, such as those that are represented in our own Binney collection here. He's had access to the personal holdings of the Maharajas in Rajasthan, especially those at Jaipur. Paintings from Jaipur are on view right now. I hope you go take a look after the symposium. And also Jodhpur at the Mehrangarh Fort. And the paintings from the Jodhpur collection were in a fabulous exhibition, award-winning exhibition, curated by the curator at the Freer Sackler Museum, and one of our speakers today is her colleague, and also one of our important donors here to this museum, Catherine Glynn Benkeim. So Naval Krishna has extraordinary insights not only into museum practice, Indian art and philosophy, Indian art history, but also into the personal collecting lives of the patrons of the Rajput courts, especially two of the most important ones. And so he will be able to offer us insights that none of us could get from any other source. And he's been allowed access to the personal collecting diaries of the Maharajas, and he'll be sharing some of his research into those with us today as well. So just as we have special access to the notes and diaries of Edwin Binney III, as he was forming his encyclopedic collection of Indian paintings here, Naval Krishna has had similar access to the collecting practices and thoughts and opinions of the patrons at the Rajput courts. So before I turn it over to him, just a little more on his credentials. He received his PhD in the painting of Bikaner, which are the paintings that we had on the first rotation in Temple Palace Mosque in 1985 from the Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi, India. He also has a master's degree in museology from University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and also a master's degree from the Bharat Kala Bhavan in India in ancient Indian archaeology and art history. So with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Naval Krishna. Thank you.
Distinguished audience, thank you for coming and sharing something very personal with me. And I thank the museum to bring me here. And most of the things have already been told by Dr. Sonya. But one thing she missed out, I would like to add. She gave a great genealogy. But I have been called as a lost case in my family because I was the most poor scholar. And so whatever I'll be sharing, it will be just tip of iceberg, what you could have had with my father or grandfather or even my brother. And only yesterday she had told me about the audience, so I have altered my lecture as per your requirement. Instead of just saying very technical thing on Bikaneri painting, I wrapped up everything with the experience of my grandfather as a founder and a collector. So another thing I would like to add that the museum she told you about, Bharat Kala Bhavan, actually, the collection, most core of the collection was our family collection, which my grandfather donated to the country. And it covers each aspect of Indian art, and we have at least 10 best pieces in the world in each section. So I'll just start, with your permission, my brief outline. And what I have tried to explain in that, what was the sensitivity my grandfather or my family, because we have been experiencing this art activities for last 65 years. And the sensitivity and the passion. And we always feel that, the collectors and the directors are very happy people, but we have to pay a lot of things in exchange. And that also we can share how if somebody is a collector, then what rest of the family suffers or enjoys. So I'll start with the enjoyment that I got a chance to be here in front of you. So just a very basic thing I always try to show, that we'll be just talking about two spots. It's a kind of case study because of the limitation of the time. There is one Banaras here, and then we talk about this place on the western India. These are Rajput states. So I took two patrons, one from Bikaner and one from Banaras, that is my grandfather, Krishna Das. So we will talk about, we will see some kind of psychology of patrons, and then their wavelength or interaction with the painters through the eyes of these paintings and artwork, and what society actually finally got. So this is a kind of basic background of Kashi or Varanasi. This is a holy city where we are from. And there's another very important point, that whether Kashi attracted us or we attracted people in Kashi. And it has been a mystic city, and we have got a very nice institute of Tibetan studies there also, and we have a lot of Buddhist people. So on the left is my grandfather in his later age, and on right is the museum which he founded. In museology, we always discussed about the collection and the architecture. So sometimes we are given architecture and collection was already there, so we accommodate collection. And this is the case when collection was there. He actually started collecting in 1920, and in 1950, with the agreement of the then Vice Chancellor, entire collection shifted, and this building was built. And there are many features we can talk later, we can discuss about that. Of Indian art, he was impressed with, and he included, like if you are a little bit aware about famous lion capital of Sarnath, you can see the pillars in these kind of full bloom lotus. Then here and then you can see the niches from cave temples, Buddhist cave temples. So this is another thing we can think about. So actually he was very much in passion. So everywhere he wanted to put his ideas or himself. And another aspect which I have already told you about the sorrow we had, he would put all money of the family, and he donated every single textile and jewelry and everything to the museum. So we lived in very poor state. So initially, these patrons were like, this is from your collection. I just try to include some of your familiar paintings to give a different context. So both, Bikaner Maharajas were Maharajas, and Krishna Das was also a sort of landlord, and he owned a lot of property. And he was basically a Hindi writer, and later on he turned as a collector, patron, and connoisseur. So in entire presentation, it'll be a little bit, interesting or could be a little confusing also. It will be just like a narration in Indian art, Indian painting. We see Indian painting as a sort of narratives, and this entire presentation will be just like a narrative. So here you can see, the basic principle of Indian painting is a sort of continuity, a continued narration. So the story actually starts from here in different compartments, continues here, and then ends up here, showing the main core of the story. Or it will be like this, in the same frame, we will have true Krishnas, means I think it's a continuous story, and here, the mother and the confidant of her are actually narrating the story, how mischievous the Krishna is and stealing the butter. So I still recall that we had similar situation in our house when in place of these two women, my grandfather and father will discuss how they have collected the material and how other collector, maybe like Dr. Edward Binney, stole a piece of art from their hand. So my father still regrets that, he just missed because within a day or two, and it was gone in other hands. So this is very parallel to in painting, Or this, I'm just showing these from our collection. And this is a very, very famous scene when Krishna held the mountain. And it is a kind of dispute between Vedic gods and later gods. And at one point, he had held this kind of load when he started collecting, and there was an enormous collection he could collect. So this is two beautiful pieces where you can see the realistic treatment of Krishna when he is actually efforting to hold this load, and here he became a sort of very philosophical form where he is actually holding entire load on with his finger. And most of the patrons and collectors have this kind of theory that first they enjoy the piece. So most of the time you will feel those art collections were not very good and very important when they collected, but they have got such a good foresight. Then after 50 years, 60 years, we just found out they are the best pieces. And there's another thing which we always miss out, that today we have a handful of paintings or art objects. We have to select from them. And at that point, I witnessed that box full of things used to arrive at our place, and out of 100,000, one has to select. And like playing cards. And now they turn out to be the best pieces. So that was a kind of thing. And it was later we heard that he wanted to actually give it to the world. So not only it is not limited to his friend circle, but each person in the world would enjoy. So that we call Sarvajan Hitai. It's for for the sake of everybody. So that was the basic sensitivity he had. Otherwise, it would have been in our private collection. So we have a good representation of Lord Buddha, who also can be parallel to that. Here we have two examples. One is from Bikaner, and this actually buttresses my theory that way back in '68, he found this piece among 1,000 pieces, and he selected. And this is my forte, actually. I have been working on this school for the last 30 years. And this turned out to be the only available painting of this painter who is trendsetter of big school of Rajasthan. So here again, we have some very beautiful inscription. It says that the Maharaja actually had a dream when he returned back, and he narrated that in front of the court. and he asked his painters to paint, and there was a visiting artist from this school, that is Shah Jahan period Pashanama, and he painted this composition, and the painter said, the patron said exactly that what he actually had a dream. So this is a kind of understanding between the Bikaneri Maharaja patron and the visiting Muslim artist who never had any experience of Indian culture, and he made such a composition which actually was quite well matched with the wavelength of the patron. So then we have this Rai Krishna Das ji, and he was also interested in getting many manuscripts illustrated which were not illustrated in Indian tradition, and he invited some Bengali artists, and then he commissioned one illustrated illustration, actually the set on Meghadut, and that is a cloud messenger. So after a while he found out that this Bengali artist from eastern India never saw the clouds, never had actually the experience of cloud. So the patron actually sent him over the hills for a month to actually experience the clouds, and then he could manage to paint these kind of clouds. So this is another aspect of as a kind of interaction between patron and painter. And he also patronized one Mughal artist, and we have the third generation of that artist. And when we think about museology, then as a joint director, when I held the job, I put this artist in the middle of the painting gallery, because my theory was that when we enter in the painting gallery, we get so much mesmerized, and we start getting museum fatigue. So here is a breathing space. When you feel that this is beyond your potential, then you see somebody is working here. You can sit and interact with and discuss about the colors and painting. And moreover, you can have the brush and paper to work with that. And what he collected, and any collector, it was a sort of vast sea, and this is from your collection. And they have to churn out the best pieces. And it is always a gamble, and we have many collectors who kept on changing their art objects once they found. But in this case of Bharat Kala Bhavan, very few cases we have when actually he changed his decision. And when actually the movement became a kind of ice ball, then there were many, I also took a sort of simile from your collection. Then many people actually gifted the painting like you have in your museum. And this is one of the paintings from Edward Binney collection, which was actually gifted to Maharaja on different occasions. And I have been actually collecting these kind of informations and attribute them on the basis of that and style. We actually, nobody was very much interested in between 1920 or 60 on these paintings, which were actually the key of our Indian Indian art, and we call it pre-Mughal art. And nobody knew much, this is again from your collection, about the beauty of this. They always considered it as a folk art. And here you can see all the characteristic of Indian art, and how the water was treated, and how the plants are symbolic. It's full of symbolism rather than realistic. And again, it has got a caption on the back. Or there was another kind of school or sub-school going on, that is a mixture of Mughal. I don't touch Mughal art here at all. Mixture of Mughal and local school. And we know that Mughal Emperor Akbar had a third style which was meant for Rajput patrons, like we have Razmanama of Jaipur, like that. So this was another kind of style which is very popular at that point, and people just ignored. And like, collectors like Dr. Edward Binney or Rakesh Das, Khandalawala, and so on, they have this foresight to actually pick these things, and now they are the most important evidence for my research. And once there was a kind of wave among the artisans, Maharajas, and antique dealers, then everything got in rhythm. And I show this kind of rhythm in two pieces in our museum, that is the dancing Ganesh. And here you see how difficult it is to show these kind of soft muscles on stone sculpture. And if you see carefully, this chubby Ganesh is dancing, and when he dances, his tummy is also actually moving. So these kind of, only accomplished sculptors and artists could do it. And here it is a famous, Lord of Dance, and you see how everything was clearly defined. And they all, especially Raya Krishna Das ji, had actually saw entire life cycle in his collection. And I could sit with him, and he would say, this is the birth, this is this, and this is that, and this is the death. How the artist actually defined it in many years, 300, 400, 500 years ago. So this is one piece from the museum. It shows the birth, and famous Pahadi painting showing small Krishna with his mother. And this is, again, in each artwork we have symbolic treatment as well as cultural background. And many things perhaps we don't know, and it should be out soon. Like here, he just killed one demon, and according to our custom, our tradition, if he will be surrounded by evil eyes because he had done some kind of feat, so they would just wave a cow tail on him to ward off all these evils. Or we have this kind of, love romance, and he would narrate his youth time when he knew many people. Again, this represent a pre-Mughal painting, which most of European and American collectors neglected. And this is full of Indian symbolism. If you see carefully, this is a night scene actually. Unlike European painting, you see everything very clearly, and that is the basic formula of Indian art, that you have to see everything, and in that way they could change their perspective also. So this is, the hero and heroine, and they all follow the standard of beauty and our dance, classical dance. And the night is actually represented by the lamp and star-studded sky. Then there'll be a kind of expectation and love. We have a very fine piece of Pahadi painting when Radha, actually this is the confidant, she knew that Krishna is going to come from here, but Radha didn't know. So if you see carefully the way I just turn it so that you can, they can face each other, the expression artists have done, Radha has different expectation. It's a kind of sort of a shock. And here she knows. And the beauty of Indian art is when hero comes or when a god comes, entire vegetation blooms, and actually as if each piece is moving towards right, as if they want to touch the Lord before these two women can see or touch. So you see everything is moving towards Krishna side. Then there's a marriage was also a very important aspect of anybody. And we have got a very fabulous piece of this, the marriage of Shiv and Parvati. And in Indian art, we always have, whenever we have this kind of great event, entire universe actually comes and witness that. So if you see in everybody from the universe in their symbolic form are as a context of the main event. And here Shiva and Parvati, they are actually going around the fire in Indian fashion. And what happens, there should be 7 rounds they have to take. After third round, Lord Shiva lost his patience because he couldn't see Parvati's face for 3 rounds. So he just suddenly turned around, and you can see the jerk in the lower part of that. And he has a kind of cunning smile here, and Parvati has a sort of coyish, shy smile there. So these kind of movements only accomplished artist could bring, and a very good eye, of connoisseur's eye, can actually find these pieces. And then there is a point in the life he explained that it was a kind of tapasya and carefree movement. He would just go in different cities, and he has a very distinct bag. And he would go street to street and try to see if he could find some good pieces neglected by the shopkeeper. And for that, he has to do quite a tapasya, and we have it's represented by, of course, I have created some more similes, by a great fasting Buddha, and where you see he's just turned into a skeleton, and his eyes are focusing to the goal he wanted to achieve. And just right after this state of, he got one lady with rice pudding, and he was fed with the food, and then he got enlightenment. And we have got a very beautiful terracotta of Shiva. We don't have any piece matching this. He's so he's known for his carefree and like a very sort of relaxed person when he is relaxed. But once he gets annoyed, then we have that dancing Lord who is going to destroy the world. So here he's just like a very ordinary ascetic of Banaras, and you see all beauty of that. And if you we can see a kind of inebriated eyes. He's always having these kind of dopes and ganjas and everything he's allowed to do. And there's a time when Krishna Das was also very much kind of mystic, and he was taking a bath in a river, and when he emerged from the river, he had a sort of a shaligram, that is a kind of symbolic form of Vishnu. And since then, it has been our family goddess. And we have got this is unmatchable painting in our collection, which actually shows past, present, and future. And this is a very famous seat of one Sheikh Fool, and this is where artists has tried to show the early morning. And in early morning, these people started cleaning this thing. And here, all are standing as per their etiquette. There are some closer, there are some farther and closer, and they are just waiting for this saint to finish his daily routine, and then they'll be blessed by him. And of course, we saw one part of that is the death. And here, the death is actually shown in very peculiar way. And this school, Malwa, is supposed to be preserving old tradition of Indian painting. And you see, when Krishna, actually she came here to feed Krishna with her breast, as per our old tradition. And Krishna, being a divine person, he actually sucked so hard, then she choked. And you can see the tongue is coming out, and her eyes are rolling back. And once she was being killed, she just assumed her original form, and original form was shown with the gigantic shape of her. And that you can also see from this, the trees. When she fell, she broke a lot of trees. He was a real connoisseur, as Sonya ji also said. I mean, I shouldn't be biased being a family member, but most of the people say, then I'm just repeating their expression. And somehow, and he has a fantastic memory, it's a photographic memory. And this is one of the finest piece which has been underrated by today's guides as Indian Mona Lisa, and I always challenge that Mona Lisa should be our prasadika because she predates Mona Lisa. And at one point in Indian art, with the help of patron painters and society, they created a kind of some text which narrates a standard of beauty and the characteristic of great people like these standards. And this sculpture actually follows verbatim the text. You can see the eyes like lotus, chin like mango, nose like parrot, the thighs are like plantain, and the waist like hourglass. And this also shows the past, present, and future. She is a sort of helper to a queen, and queen is one of you, and you have just summoned her. So she just takes one leg, and the movement starts, and the movements you can see in the spilling of these jewels from the basket. An artist has cleverly actually indicated that she is meant for the royalty, showing the jewel rather than flowers. And if you see clearly that even the breast, like Ganesha's tummy, they actually also moves. So this is the present, and then she will go and ornate the queen. Or, in many cases, like we call Chaur Panchashika style, that is again, we are in two groups, whether it's pre-Mughal or contemporary. There, it's all these elements of standard beauty are shown very clearly. You can see the stretched eye, like lotus, and then nose, and then chin. And they are comparable to realistic treatment of Mughal creation of beauty. Here we have later painting from one Rajput school, which again shows this standard of beauty, and in very exaggerated form. And what the patron or the collector actually found out, which we missed out, that this is the lady beauty, and she is thinking of her beloved. And just like in ocean, one wave comes and the second wave, and we can see that with her lips and with her eyes, each time she has a thought and there's some kind of expression, and then that one can actually understand if somebody moves from one side to other sides, and each side she has different experience. There's another beauty he has collected, which is comparable to Mughal painting. And there's, in contrast, the patron in Bikaner had this painting in your collection. This is the only available painting by this artist called Nathu. And as Sonya ji said, that I have been working on day-to-day diaries of Maharajas to reconstruct art history. And there are many examples and many narrations in that diary which nobody knows, like this. And this is the detail of that, like these. So here is there is another painting with the inscription of this painter, and this we don't have time to go through. This actually, it says the work of Usta Nathu, the painter of that beauty. And this is a list. This is only one page out of 30, 40 pages. And list of the list of different compositions he painted. So it one by one it says this is composition of Lady Assembly and this and this and this. So there are just 5, 6 I have shown you. And also there were actually some paintings were made for Janana, and we have evidence from those day-to-day diaries how the manuscripts were mainly meant for ladies. We have the same thing happened in Jaipur, and we have those kind of documents from Jaipur collection, which actually narrates the composition, and this is from your collection. And it gives actually the amount of honey, amount of the color, so we can find also out the recipe. Another example. Then this is what we had actually, what I have briefly explained you, that how, sometimes with the collector's effort, family is affected, and sometimes it is badly affected. So because of his all activities, everything actually came to my father, and we were just, having all these kind of problems because of the finance and because of the time, because we have to attend all visitors all the time, visiting the collectors. But what we had ultimately was the legacy and this museum for society, and people take benefit of that, and it is available to everybody, and it covers all aspect of Indian life in one way or another. Thank you.